The Empire of Tamriel is no stranger to violence. However, few events can compare to when the Empire was almost destroyed by the onslaught of the Eldmeri Dominion. Today, on this episode of the Elder Scrolls Lore, we will be talking about the Great War. Our story begins in the early days of the Eldmeri Dominion. The Eldmeri Dominion literally translates into something along the lines of Home of the Elves. High Elves, to be specific. So the first Eldmeri Dominion encompasses the provinces of the Somerset Isles and Valenwood. This is capable to coexist peacefully with the Empire for a few years, but the Eldmeri Dominion eventually completely falls under the sway of the Empire. So, the Empire, under the Septim Dynasty, is all of Tamriel at this point. Things are chugging along all neat and tidy under the reign of the Septim Emperors. So this is the absolute golden age of the Empire. Unfortunately, the you-know-what hits the fan when we get into the Oblivion Crisis. With the help of the Mythic Dawn, Mehur's Dagon enters the world and a bunch of Oblivion Gates pop up all over Tamriel. Cyrodiil is not the only place that's being overrun with Daedric hordes at the moment. All the provinces are, including the Somerset Isles. There's a contingent of elves in the Somerset Isles who are actually capable of shutting the gates themselves and pushing the Daedra back. These guys are called the Thalmor. They are an exceptionally radical sect of elves, very old school, very conservatives, but hey, they're able to fight the Daedra, so go them. Without their help, it's almost certain that the Somerset Isles would have completely been overrun by Daedric hordes. Once the Oblivion Crisis is done and the gates are permanently closed, the Empire has some breathing room. But it's also in a heap of trouble. All the Septim Emperors are now dead, so there's a lot of civil unrest and civil war breaking out over who's going to be the next emperor. With the Thalmor very powerful and influential in the Somerset Isles now, they're able to kick out the Imperials and they have their own country again. Shortly after, they managed to help a party overthrow the Imperials in the province of Valenwood as well. So, now, the Eldmeri Dominion's back. This is what we call the second Eldmeri Dominion, and this is the one that ends up fighting and nearly taking down the Empire. A few years later, there's a crisis in the province of Elsewhere. All of Tamriel is pretty spooked out by this, but it's especially bad for the Khajiit. What is going bad, that you say? Well, the moons have disappeared. While this freaks everyone out, it's exceptionally bad for the Khajiit because they rely on the moons for their birth signs, so without them, they are in a heap of trouble. The Thalmor say that using a very, very mysterious type of magic called dawn magic, they're able to restore the moons. It's debatable whether or not they actually restored the moons or just said they did, but either way, the Khajiit credit the Thalmor as their saviors. So now the Thalmor have a lot of influence in Elsewhere. In a mere 15 years, they're actually able to help the Khajiit kick out the Imperials as well, and Elsewhere is now a Thalmor client state. But things are starting to come to a head now. Emperor Titus Mede II has now ascended to the throne of the Empire. And he does not ascend to really the greatest circumstances you can imagine. His empire is exceptionally weak now. He's actually lost several provinces, including Blackmarsh, and overall it's just not going very well. To make matters worse, Thalmor ambassadors have just arrived at the Imperial City. They have a gift for him, and an ultimatum. They threaten war unless he agrees to this massive list of demands. He has to outlaw the Blades, his personal bodyguard and secret service, outlaw the worship of Talos, cede large sections of Hammerfell to the Dominion, and pay a massive tribute, so give the Thalmor lots of gold. Despite the fact that the Empire is really weak, he does not agree to this. If he had agreed to it, he would probably have faced civil war. Within days, the Thalmor response arrives. There are armies that invade Hammerfell and Cyrodiil simultaneously. Another thing that's interesting is that gift that the Thalmor ambassadors had brought him was actually the severed heads of all the Blades agents in Hammerfell. Actually, no, not Hammerfell, Valenwood and the Somerset Isles. And basically, they just killed a lot of Blades, and the Empire was not too happy about this. So now war has broken out. So besides the invasion in Hammerfell, they've also advanced in Cyrodiil, and the Imperials are not at all ready for it. They just keep losing territory and cities, and Hammerfell isn't faring much better either. The Thalmor actually reach the Imperial City. Titus manages to get his army out of there, but the Imperial City is sacked. At this point, things are not looking too good for the Empire. At this point, it looks like the Empire is actually going down. But the Imperials are not done yet. Titus regroups, and it actually proves that leaving the Imperial City was a good idea, because he has reinforcements arrive from Skyrim and from all over the Empire. They all get together and launch a reassault on the Imperial City. This leads to the Battle of the Red Ring. It's a bloody fight, but they end up completely wiping out the Eldmeri army. By the way, Eldmeri as in Eldmeri Dominions are the Thalmor. I just think I should make that clear. So they end up completely destroying them and capturing the Eldmer general, Lord Nefari, and that's a really big name, and I probably just butchered that pronunciation. So the Imperials have got a bit of breathing room. They've destroyed a Thalmor army, but they are in absolutely no shape to keep on fighting. There isn't a single legion that's at full strength anymore, the countryside is in complete disarray, and overall the Empire is a total mess. So they end up citing the White Gold Concordat with the Eldmeri Dominion to end the war. This is basically just all the same demands that the Thalmor had at the beginning of the war. Talos worship is outlawed, they have to pay a massive tribute, and cede sections of Hammerfell to the Dominion. A lot of people aren't happy with this, though. The whole banning Talos worship, the god that all the Nords worship, ends up making a lot of Nords very angry. And the Nords had basically been one of the very big reasons why the Empire didn't fall. So this is actually the cause for the bloody civil war in Skyrim at the moment between the Imperials and the Stormcloaks. The Red Guards from Hammerfell could also never agree to this. They did not want to cede any of their territory. So they end up seceding from the Empire to keep up the fight with the Dominion. They actually meet quite a bit of success and end up fighting the Dominion to a standstill, and then sign a treaty with the Dominion that basically has Hammerfall completely independent, and the Dominion has to go home. So this has caused a lot of bitterness with the Empire and Hammerfell, and even more bitterness within the Empire, because there's that big question, what if the Imperials had kept on fighting? By Imperials, I don't mean like just the race of the Imperials, the entire Empire. They might have been able to turn the tide on the Dominion and actually conquer it back. But things are the way it is, and the Dominion is now looking far stronger than the Empire. Ominously enough, they call the Great War the First Great War. So it's suspected that the Second Great War is already in the planning stages. Either way, that's for a new DLC, the future to look forward to. Well, I'm the Loopy Alchemist, and thanks so much for joining me on this episode of The Elder Scrolls Lore.